What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to AURAM'S FORUM. I'm sticking with it at this point. Let's be honest, who cares? Anyway, today we're going to be talking about what's on that board, which, if you can't see, it says time travel on it, but with a big X over it, because stop fucking doing time travel stories. For the love of Christ and all that is holy, stop it. Just take a break from time travel. I'm going to argue this point on both sides. Clearly, I don't like time travel stories, but there are time travel stories that are good and that I do like, so I feel like I should talk about those before I start completely bashing time travel stuff, because there are some cool time travel stories. They're just very few and far between, and then I'll get into the reasons why I really hate time travel. But starting with, ooh, we're talking about Bendis again. Oh no. It's just a Bendis creation, not Bendis specifically. All new X-Men, the time-displaced X-Men, or the young X-Men, as they're called in continuity. They're not called the all new X-Men in continuity, except that one panel once they get their new suits, where I think Beast or Iceman is like, I feel like an all new X-Man. Posted on Twitter a while ago. It's pretty funny. Anyway, point is, it's fun. I really like that. That book, the all new X-Men book. It's on the Show with Issues set. Go watch one of those videos. You could probably see it somewhere. I have the entire first run of it. It's a fun story. Basically, the premise is that it was at the point where Cyclops had kind of lost it and had gone a little bit off his rocker. And because of this, he like was in league with Magneto and stuff. It was wild. Because of this, Beast was like, hey, I need to tell Cyclops. This was also after Cyclops killed Professor X. That's kind of what led him down this dark road. And Beast was like, I need to remind Cyclops of the original mission of Charles Xavier's X-Men. So what Beast decides to do is build a time machine, go back in time, and bring the original lineup of X-Men. That's like Beast, Iceman, Marvel Girl, Cyclops, and Angel. I think that's all of them. I think there's only 5. I don't know. It's unimportant. He brings those from the past into the present, and basically the only thing they were supposed to do was go to Cyclops and be like, hey, fuckhead, listen, you're doing some bad stuff. And then Cyclops would be like, oh, you're right. And then he would stop doing his shit. And that kind of backfired for a multitude of reasons. One of which is, and this is why time travel stories are stupid, the existence of through character or like plot things that were happening, the time-displaced X-Men weren't able to go back at all, and when they were finally able to go back, they didn't want to go back, even though everyone was telling them to go back, because they were destroying the timeline and, like, reality itself. Their existence there, and I'm pretty sure still today, is just having, like, a bunch of influxes on time, and it's slowly killing the universe, because it's a paradox, and they don't want a paradox running around. You got big old Beast Boy and small old Beast Boy. One's blue and one's not blue. They don't do that. They don't kiss. That'd be weird. But kind of hot? Anyway, yeah, so it was fun. It was a fun story. I know some people don't like it. It was around the era, the Marvel Now era, where Bendis was writing Guardians of the Galaxy and All New X-Men, and I really liked All New X-Men. I thought it was a lot of fun. We've got X-23 in there at some point. She had a cool little plot line in there. It kind of ended a little poorly. The ending of the series was just a little weird. You just kind of like gave up on writing him. I haven't of course I haven't written it. I haven't read the new book, which is who's writing it? Is Dennis Hopeless writing it? I feel like Dennis Hopeless might be writing it for some reason. I don't know. It's unimportant. It's the new one with like Kid Apocalypse in there or something. And I heard they go on a road trip. It's beside the point. Time travel stories suck, but we're still not gonna get to that. I'll use a transitional thing to go from good time travel to just utterly terrible time travel. Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow is one of the 3, potentially 4 now, DC TV shows. Oh wait, no, I guess Supergirl counts now as well. Regardless, it's one of the CW shows, and it's a time travel show, basically. It's a bunch of characters that have been brought up in Arrow, Flash, not Supergirl, yet anyway, and a couple that were just introduced through Legends of Tomorrow. And they're all this ragtag group of people. They're not heroes. Don't call them that. They're something else. Legends. And they go through and fix aberrations in time, which is basically, they're just fixing shitty time travel stories. So they're in this Wave Rider thing, and it's a time ship, and they're going through and fixing time, but at the same time, no pun intended, literally their existence in any of these places is gonna cause an aberration, but like because of plot convenience, they're like, oh, we didn't do anything super massive, so it didn't cause a huge aberration. And sometimes the characters do cause aberrations and they don't fix them because they're like, but I don't want to fix this one, it helps me. But like, shut the fuck up. Who cares if it helps you? You signed on to fix time, not to fix time unless it's a cool thing for you. That's not, time travel stories are stupid, guys. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons I don't really like time travel stories, is mostly because they just don't work a lot of the times. There's too much paradox and rules that you have to set to where you get to a certain point where either the writer is really confused, or the reader or viewer is really confused, or just everyone is really confused. And, like, there's no real perfect way to do time travel. The only, like, great way you could do time travel is if you ignore the fact that things that you do in the past can, or the future, can have an effect elsewhere, or elsewhen, I guess. Because if that's the case, then you could just have characters go back in time, have fun, and then go back to the future. But that's not the case. Every single time travel story is not like a fun romp through time. They have to go back to fix something or go back to get something, and inevitably they end up screwing something up, and that just fucks with time, and then they go back to the future and everything's ruined and it's just awful, and you're in a dystopia and you're like, well, gotta fix this. And then you have like Marvel time, which is like an accelerated speed thing where like 4 years in our world is 1 year in Marvel world, but also at the same time, apparently it was revealed in like Ultimates or something where Galactus was talking about this, or some fourth dimensional being. Are there fourth dimensional beings in Marvel, or are there just cosmic beings in Marvel? I don't know. It's unimportant. Somebody in Ultimates was like, hey, no matter what, time is not linear. If you do something in 2462, it could affect something in 1429. It doesn't matter. Time is always in flux, and that's basically a huge retcon to explain every other retcon. And I honestly really like that, because it gives time travel stories some credence. Because you could say, that's like basically just Marvel writers, Al Ewing being smart and being like, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna tell my story. If things are happening in other stories, or this is gonna affect something at a different time or a different place, doesn't matter to me, because time will fix itself, or it will just, it's not linear, so who cares? You don't have to worry about it. It's a good solution to time travel stories. But at the same time, you wouldn't need that solution if you didn't do time travel stories. But again, I'm not saying that all time travel stories should never happen. It's just we don't need time travel all the time, always. Like in The Flash. Here's the thing. In The Flash, spoilers for Flash Season 2, or Season 3, we're on Season 3 now, yikes. They're trying to save Iris from dying, from Savitar killing her, by, like, going and fixing things to, like, they go to the future, and Barry sees all these headlines conveniently, and they're like, well then, we gotta make sure that those headlines don't happen so that Savitar doesn't kill Iris. But at the same time, every single time they're like, oh, if we do this thing, it will stop the headline from happening. But how the fuck do you know that? Like, if you stop Grodd they actually did kind of touch on this a little bit in the Grodd episodes. If you stop Grodd from coming and you kill the highly intelligent gorillas invade Central City or whatever, if you kill that headline by stopping Grodd, what's to say that in a couple weeks, Grodd just comes back? In the latest episode, as the time of this recording, the magic boy, he came to town and they were like, you gotta tell me who Savitar is. If you don't tell me who Savitar is, Iris is gonna die. But how the fuck do you know that? It's time travel, it's stupid. And they keep going like, Cisco keeps vibing the future, and he's like, nothing's changed. Yeah, no shit, nothing's changed. Because no headlines have changed. You say that like one of the headlines was that they have fixed, presumably, is the Flash stops some villain, and they changed it to where Kid Flash stops that villain. But I just, it's a very interesting conclusion that they drew to in that show, where time travel is the solution to saving Iris from Savitar. Because like, what's to stop Vibe from vibing the future, and the headline, instead of saying the Flash stops the plunderer, it says Kid Flash stops the plunderer. But Iris still dies at the hands of Savitar in the exact same way. Harry's still on the roof, Barry's still on the ground, Jerry's still in the ceiling. It's just time. Who's to say? I mean, I know we have to suspend disbelief a little bit. Well, a lot of it. It's superhero shows. I know we're supposed to like get that out of there for a little bit, but this is the problem with time travel stories, is that they don't work. They just don't work because there's so much confusion. And I feel like I'm making a big claim here, hating like all time travel stories, but again, I know I've said this a couple times now, but I do want to say I do like certain time travel stories. Sometimes they work. For example, Days of Future Past. I haven't read the like actual comic Days of Future Past, but the movie is great. There's time travel kind of involved in the movie, but it's a good type of time travel because they're not actually sending anyone back in time. They're just sending the consciousness of current Wolverine in the movie. I know it's Kitty Pryde in the comics. They're sending the consciousness of current Wolverine into the body of past Wolverine through telepathy and kind of time travel. Rogue can do it for some reason. Anyway, yeah, that's a good story because nothing really changes, and the changes that do happen make sense, and they're just for the betterment of the X-Men franchise. Like the big change that happens when like the future is changed, because that's the whole point. They gotta go back so that fucking extinction of the mutants and everything doesn't have— shut up, phone! So that everybody doesn't die. They have to go back and fix that, and they do. And it's great, because then they like, the X-Men movie universe timeline is like colluded, and it's fixed, and it's nice. Even though now we have Logan, which I guess is in the original X-Men timeline. Alright, so I've talked a lot about movies and TV shows and like cinematic portrayals of time travel. Not a lot about comic portrayals besides the all-new X-Men stuff. So I have a much bigger problem with time travel in comics. And that reason being is it's really hard to portray. It's really hard to not make fucking confusing. Like, for example, in the current Avengers run, which is current as of the time of this recording, they're like fighting Kang forever, and they just did like a huge time travel thing where they went back and got the original Avengers and like dying, and the original Wasp was like, I gotta go and put this suit on that protects me from paradoxes or some shit. Vision helped from the future. I don't know. It's really difficult to portray on paper without like things getting too confusing. It's kind of hard to describe, just like it's kind of hard to read, but I don't know, it just, time travel in like comic form just doesn't really work well unless it's very simple and bare bones. I also think it doesn't help that the art's beautiful in the current Avengers run. I think it's Mike Del Mundo. It's kind of an Alex Ross painty style, but when time travel's happening and all this complicated shit and you have to pay attention and like really dissect what's going on to understand what's going on, you need like very clear lines in art, whereas like the painterly stuff where everything's kind of overlapping and smooshed together doesn't work for time travel super well. And again, that's not harping on the art at all. I think it's great art. It's just for time travel, maybe not. because time travel is confusing. It's just... time travel is stupid, guys. I hope I've made like a somewhat convincing argument. I know this is a vaguely shorter one. I didn't have a lot to say. I just don't like time travel stories. They're just confusing. Like, I much prefer living in our own time, and then maybe have like a time jump occasionally. Those are always fun, but those are really hard to do in continuity, like larger shared universe continuity books and stuff like that, because everyone has to make that time jump, or they don't, and people just get even more confused. But yeah, that's a story for, that's just more like an overarching, I like that in fiction. I like time jumps in fiction, not time travel. If you don't know what I mean by time jumps, I mean like if a season of a show ends and then the next season starts and it's been like a year or a couple months, I love that, because that gives writers so much material to just play around with. Characters get to change faster than you would otherwise let them do. Like, for example, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it recently with their season change, where everything was fine and good, and then the next season happens and Daisy's like on the run and she's all edgy and stuff, and you're like, ooh, what happened? Character development happened off screen. I wonder what it was. And sure, it can suck sometimes because you don't actually get to see that character development, but a lot of the times they do flashbacks or they just explain it. But it's a good plot device to use. I don't know how I landed on time jumps instead of time travel. Don't do time travel. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. That's the point of this video. Follow me on Twitter. Andrew's been putting it here. Shout out to Andrew. Leave this in, Andrew. Andrew's the guy who's editing these. I know it's like weird. I'm an editor and I'm not editing my own videos. It's just this one. It's just this show. I don't have all the time in the world. I got a full-time editing job, and also my videos take a while. So put your Twitter below mine. You think it's like Andrew_0 or something? Yeah, go follow him. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Show him some support, because I feel bad for making him edit my videos. That's it. Time travel sucks. Stop doing it, guys.